of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass, always taking names and kicking ass, live and in living color here for season 3 of Grande's Graveyard. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back in the Ram Nation studio. I'm live on radio.co. I'm live on YouTube. I'm live here in the studio, and I feel my pulse. I'm live as ever, baby. This is it, man. I'm alumni now. I graduated. I walked that aisle. I grabbed my 16th world title. I grabbed my bachelor's degree in professional communications. I've been job hunting. I've been fighting for surviving. But here I am, live in living color with y'all, ready to talk about my favorite goddamn thing in the whole wide world. That is horror movies. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. I got 2 cameras over here, so I'm gonna try to divvy this out as good as humanly possible. I don't know how I'm looking. Yo, Norman, how am I looking? Norman's my producer right now. How am I looking on my Instagram on my phone? Am I good? Like, can y'all see the? Okay, I'm Gooch. Okay, just had to make sure, Thank you. What's your name again? Okay, I can't hear you. If you want to turn that mic on, tell me. You're Gooch. Anna. Okay, thank you, Anna.
No, Anna.
I said Anna. It's Hannah or Anna? Hannah Montana?
With an H.
Hannah Montana. Okay. You get the best of both worlds. All right. Yeah. I'm throwing them out. All right. That's what I'm doing. All right. So here we are. It's been for hell and ever. I think my last show was May 2nd of this year, of course. But man, I've missed this so bad. This is like not being without your favorite child for a while. This is like not being without your favorite food for a while, because like, I got to tell you, man, every single week that I get to come in here over my entire run in Farmingdale and got to talk horror movies with everybody and had all these wonderful guests on the show, I really thought at the end of season 2 that this would be the end of everything, really. Like, I thought maybe I can continue it on the side from my house. Maybe I can have a guest on here or there, but I felt it would never be the same unless I was here in the studio. And fate would have it that Miranda actually won the presidential election. She won by a landslide. I think she got all the votes. I don't know. I was there at the election, and I don't see anybody vote. I think she was just declared president because she's awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much what happened. She wasn't even there. She didn't even show up to the election. She still won it. That's like the badassery of that. Like, you can't touch this woman. She's on her damn phone. She don't give a crap what you think. All right. She don't give a damn. But that's the beauty of it, man. And like, when she was like, yo, I'm coming back, I'm going to be president for the next 2 years. I was like, you got a half a term, woman. You got a half a term. And I got a show that I want to air here on Ram Nation Radio. So she said, you can come back. I said, hell yeah. I bought the woman a bag of Doritos and a goddamn tub of ice cream. And here I am sitting on the prime time. I hope we have somebody watching on YouTube. I know we probably have people watching over here, but one, yes, one. 1 is the loneliest number, but it's better than 0. I'll tell you that. But yeah, so I figured, I was like, yo, how do I come back for a season 3? How do I come back? Third time's the charm. I've been out of action for about 4 months. That's a goddamn quarter of a year. That's goddamn 2. Actually, no, it's more than a quarter. It's a third of a year. That's just too goddamn long. And I said, you know what? I'm going to bring back the Graveyard. I'm going to bring back the Graveyard in the only way that humanly possible, and that is by talking about one of, if not my favorite, horror movie franchises in the history of the goddamn genre, and that is Sleepaway Camp. Yes, I am a massive fan of the Sleepaway Camp movies. Of course, the legendary Felicia Rose and Angela playing Angela, and then, of course, in the sequels, Miss Pamela Springsteen reprising the role as Angela, and they're just some of my favorite movies. So I wanted to go through my stories, my history with the series, why I love the franchise so much. And I'm going to get eventually to the ones that aren't as good, like Return to Sleepaway Camp, and I guess The Survivor, which I won't spend much time on because that movie's not even a movie. It's basically just stock footage. But I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to discuss the original Sleepaway Camp, and here we go. So the original Sleepaway Camp from 1983, written and directed by Mr. Robert Hiltzik. I've actually met the man in my life. Not the nicest guy. He was actually a pretty smug, arrogant guy when I met him. I met him at a screening in New York City. Fangoria was doing a screening for the 30th anniversary back in 2013. And I met him and I was super excited to meet him. And he was very smug, very arrogant, maybe because I was wearing this shirt right here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a huge fan of the sequels, as you guys are going to be able to tell. But I met him. I was like, dude, I'm a big fan of Sleepaway Camp. And he was just like, like he was very standoffish, maybe because of my shirt, maybe because I was excited. I don't know. But the guy wasn't the nicest to me. But with that aside, I'm going to just judge the film. I wanted to preface by saying I will judge the film without, judging it by the attitude of the director, right? So the original Sleepaway Camp came out in 1983, as I said, and it basically was the follow-up to the year of the slasher in 1981. So you had all these slasher movies in 1981, camp slasher movies following in the footsteps of the original Friday the 13th and the original Halloween in 78. So you had Friday the 13th Part 2, Halloween Part 2, The Burning, Madman, Just Before Dawn, The Prowler. You had a ton of camp slashers. Prowler isn't, but, the ones I said before that, those are all 80s camp slashers where you'd have a bunch of kids going to the camp, getting picked off one by one, and hopefully you'd have some fun along the way. And like that's why I love camp slashers. They're just it's a easy formula. And this movie understands, these movies, all of them understand, especially the sequels, understand that formula. We'll get there when I talk about 2 and 3. But it's basically the movie opens with these two kids playing in the water. And there's this insane boating accident, and one of the kids dies, and basically it fast forwards to like 10 years later, and the two kids, Ricky and Angela, played by Felicia Rose, who has become a huge genre star now, really, really nice lady. I've met her actually at a screening. She is absolutely insane. I would love to see her play the Pam Springsteen Angela in my life, because she's just fantastic. And those two are going off to camp. Of course, their wacky, crazy aunt sends them off to camp. One of the funniest scenes of all time, because this woman is just backcrap crazy. She has she's a scary looking woman. She's very pale. She has the hands of Andre the Giant. Like, she's terrifying. I don't know where they found this woman. And like everything she says is kind of delayed. She's like, it wouldn't be good for you to go to camp alone. That wouldn't be good at all. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, what is wrong with this lady, man? Like, it's scary. There's something about her that just always scared me. It's kind of funny at the same time, but it's actually kind of terrifying too. Of course, the kids go to camp, and we're introduced to wonderful, colorful characters. Of course, you can never forget the pedophilish cook. The kids are running off the bus, and he goes, "Look at all that spring chicken." And I'm just like, what the hell am I watching right now? But man, it's funny. Of course, then there's another cook who's actually James Earl Jones' brother. And he's just like, "Oh, you." And I'm just like, that's not normal behavior. Like, that shouldn't be like, the 80s, I guess, was a very, very different time for toleration. And it's definitely before all this PC stuff that we have nowadays. But you're introduced to them. You're introduced to, of course, Judy, who is like the camp slut, she's like 4 foot tall, but she has the boobs of an Adonis. And it's just wonderful. You have Meg, spelled M-E-G. She makes sure she spells the name out. She's one of the head counselors. Good looking woman. She's also in a movie called Silent Madness, which I know my buddy Don, who I used to do a show with, I know he's seen it. I know he has the poster. That's actually a really, really fun little gem of an 80s slasher too, Silent Madness, if you can ever see it. She's one of the leads in that. And she's in this movie looking good as ever. And of course, you have Paul D'Angelo playing one of the lead counselors. And then you have Mel, who is the lead camp owner. And he's just like this kind of dirty grandpa guy who's actually secretly banging Meg on the side, which is a joke, because I'm just like, yo, you like, why is Meg with you? That's a theme in this series: young, beautiful women with older men. It's bizarre, but I guess, I don't know. It's the 80s for you. It's very entertaining for what it is. At least you get to see some good looking women, right? So you're introduced to all these characters, and basically the story unfolds that Angela is this very quiet girl, and she's uncomfortable, and she doesn't really she's not extroverted. She's very to herself. She doesn't say much, doesn't eat much. And this just starts to piss off everybody at the camp. Like, everybody's pissed at Angela. Judy hates Angela. Meg hates Angela. And everybody loves to hate Angela just because she's the quiet, shy girl. And one by one, all of a sudden, all the people that start to pick on Angela are being killed off one by one. And we as an audience, it's filmed like a whodunit. So we're trying to figure out who is doing the killings. Is it Jonathan Tierson playing Ricky? Is it her cousin Ricky that is getting revenge for all this stuff? Is it this boy that Angela is seeing behind, closed doors? Is it him? Can it be somebody else in the camp? Is it Angela herself? And that's one thing I always really liked about this movie from the first time I saw it. I love the whodunit aspect because I actually, first time I saw it, I didn't know who the killer was. It ends up being, I will spoil this movie because you can't really talk about the original Sleepaway Camp without the ending. But yeah, there's something about it where I didn't know who the killer was the first time I saw it. So I was really trying to figure it out. And that really keeps a viewer engaged. I really like the whodunit aspect of slasher movies because the entire time you just keep me guessing and stuff like that. And of course, there's some fun camp antics in between some of the killing. There's a fun softball game where the guy says to Ricky, he goes, "Eat shit and die, Ricky." And then Ricky goes, "Eat shit and live, Bill." I love that. It's classic. One of the best comebacks in the history of movies. Just, oh my God, so flawless. You have a water balloon fight on a roof, which makes no goddamn sense as to why you would do that. But hey, it is what it is. Man, you just have some fun camp antics. You have this little dance they have at the stationery where they play the song from the ending over and over and over. It's just what I've been looking for. It has a great little 80s vibe ring to it. Really, really cool. And I don't know. I really like, there's skinny dipping part. I think what they really tackled with the original, which is something they failed to do in a lot of camp slashers. They were able to really show that camp atmosphere, like dial it up to 11. You have kids playing the softball game. You have kids playing water balloon fights. You have kids swimming. You have kids, all these things that you would do at a camp. Like, you really never get to see that in any Friday the 13th film. Maybe part 6, you get to see a little bit of that where the kids actually do arrive. But I think of the Paramount 8 or of all of them, that's the only one where the kids actually arrive to the camp, like the kids that they're taking care of. So it's kind of bizarre that the only one Friday the 13th movie has that, but the original Sleepaway Camp actually has this, and I think it really, really works well. As for kills, I really like some of them. Of course, the cook gets the kill with the boiling hot water falling on him, and he actually survives, but they say basically, oh, his nerves are going to be gone forever, blah, 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 stuff like that. There's the beehive kill where the guy's taking a crap in the bathroom. Angela throws in a beehive at his ass, puts a broomstick in the doorway, and he gets stung to death by bees. It's pretty comical because, you just think you're taking a harmless crap, and then all of a sudden you got yellow jacks on your ass. And I just thought that was the funniest thing in the world, especially when I first seen it. I was just like, God damn, that is cruel. Like, I don't want to be killed on the can, especially by a bunch of swarm of bees, man. Like, what the hell? That's some dark stuff right there. But I don't know. It's very entertaining. You have that kill, which is, I would say that's arguably the best one in the movie. You have the arrow through the neck kill. I really, really like that one because it really doesn't look like the director cuts there. Like, it looks like it's just one big long shot of the arrow penetrating the guy's throat. And like, it's really well done for 1983. Like, you really don't see much prosthetic on his neck. It's really well done. It's a lot better than the cop's mustache at the end because the cop's mustache is clearly glued on his face. It's one of the funniest things you'll ever see because it's supposed to be a serious moment where this cop finds a body and he walks out and his jaw is on the ground and he just has this mustache, glued onto his face, which is good, clean comedy, as my good buddy Dan would say. But you have that. You have the shower kill, which actually that one might be the most brutal because you have the Meg character who's just a raging bitch, like awful. And, she's sleeping with the camp owner. And I'm just like, oh, man, this girl's awful. And she wants to go shower. She's prepping for her big date with this guy. And she goes into the shower alone in this, like, abandoned shack because why not in a horror movie, right? And she's showering, and next thing you know, she just gets stabbed right in the back. And Angela goes down with the knife, like down her spine. And you feel it, man. It's brutal. Like, I know the Psycho shower scene will always be the number one shower scene in a horror movie, but there's something so cold about this, just because of how cold and mean Meg was towards Angela, and you just feel that kill. That's a really, really underrated kill in a slasher movie. I know it's kind of tame nowadays because you really don't see much blood, and you don't, unfortunately, don't get to see any boobs, which is a big negative there. But it is what it is. It's a pretty brutal kill. And it's funny. The first time I watched this movie, I can preface by saying I think I was in around middle school, and I was really at the time looking for a slasher movie that would really take me away from the mainstream. A movie that was like a mainstream, took a formula from a mainstream, but wasn't. And while watching this movie, I remember the first time watching it. Okay, this is fine. This is a good little slasher movie. Nothing to run home about until you get to the finale. Angela, the entire movie is having her emotions toyed with by this one boy who's with her and with Judy, and it's on and off. And the final shot of the movie is you see Angela sitting on a beach. Spoiler alert: if you haven't seen the original Sleepaway Camp, you can tune me out, because everyone needs to see this for themselves at least once, especially the first time. You see Angela sitting on the beach holding a decapitated head, and she's humming to herself. And Paul D'Angelo walks up to her and goes, "Angela, what are you doing?" And she stands up with the decapitated head in her right hand, knife in her left, stands up and makes this just wild face. As the camera pans out, you finally realize that Angela is actually a boy. And that is the classic ending of Sleepaway Camp, because the first time you see that, you're like, holy Christ, what the hell are you talking about right now? And they zoom out and you get a full-on penis. You get it, the screen turns green. Your mouth will definitely hit the ground because you're just in shock. And you realize that the original opening kill of these two kids, you thought, oh, okay, the boy is the one that died. No, the boy is the one that actually lived. And when they moved her on to live with the aunt said, I already have a boy. I want a girl. So she tricks Angela into growing up thinking that she is actually a girl when she's really a boy. She's really Peter, which is one of the craziest twists in the history of horror movies. Little fun fact too, the actor playing the young boy is actually the Situation, Mike from Jersey Shore. It's his brother. And when I saw the movie in New York City, the Situation was in the theater. I didn't even know that until after. Like his brother stood up, and I'm like, Sorrentino, I've heard that goddamn name before. And I put two and two together. I was like, that's the Situation from Jersey Shore's brother, grown up. And it was just bizarre, weird, really weird finale, but a finale that I remember going into school the next day and trying to tell everybody about. I was like, you have to see Sleepaway Camp. Like, you have to watch this crazy ass movie with the crazy ass twists and fun kills and quirky characters and 80s cheese galore. And that's just why I love Sleepaway Camp, man. It really is a classic of the genre because of that ending. It's really, and it's one of the lesser talked about. It's definitely lesser talked about, but I think the reason it's lesser talked about is obviously because it wasn't a huge theatrical hit. It was just one of those movies that became big over time on DVD and VHS and stuff like that. So if I had to give a rating to the original Sleepaway Camp, I'd probably go somewhere between a 7 to an 8. Maybe, I guess I go right in the middle, 7.5 out of 10. I do love the movie. If I had any negatives with the movie, it is cheap at times. It really is. But most 80s slashers are. So that's a nitpick. It's not really the worst thing in the world. And I would say that it's not as fun as the two movies to follow. It just isn't. It isn't able to recapture the mood of the next two, because I just love the next two. I'm more for the next two. But yeah, that's the original Sleepaway Camp. I'm going to give it about a 7.5 out of 10. Really, really love the movie. Which brings us to the sequel. 5 years later, Mr. Robert A. Hiltzik, who had come off directing movies like Funland, which I know my friend Brian absolutely hates. He says it's one of the worst movies he's ever seen. Shout out to my buddy Brian. Glad to be back at season 3. And he basically wanted to take the series in a whole new direction. He wanted to make it 80s out the ass. Like, you had the early 80s slashers, which are usually more serious, like the ones I mentioned before. The Burning is a serious slasher with some comedy thrown in there. Madman is a serious slasher with some laughs in there. Like, there are slashers with laughs, but they go for that general serious tone usually. But by the time you get to like 86 and onwards with slasher movies, I mean, you have Jason Voorhees doing the James Bond intro for Jason Lives. You have him fighting a telekinetic girl in the sequel. You have Michael Myers joining a Thorn cult. You have Freddy dreaming, killing people through the dreams of an unborn child. Like, you have some bad, like, out there stuff that you would never even think about doing nowadays. But you have Jason Taking Manhattan. You know what I mean? Like, it goes on and on. But Robert Hiltzik said, you know what? I've watched these slasher movies for years and I know the formula. And what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to add a humor to it that's self-aware. And I'm going to add a humor to it that is bat crap crazy, that nods to all these classic slasher movies, that takes from classic sitcoms of the 80s. And I'm just going to have the easiest formula in the world come together and make this classic movie. And that classic movie is none other than Sleepaway Camp 2. And of course, you can't talk about Sleepaway Camp 2 without the amazing cover art to Sleepaway Camp 2, possibly the most famous cover art in the history of the genre, because you have, of course, the girl there packing for camp with Jason's mask and Freddy's glove in the satchel, which is just excellent. I don't know how they got away with the copyright. It makes no sense how they were not sued out the wazoo by New Line. How the hell did Paramount not sue them? I don't know, but they got away with it, and it's so badass that they got away with it, because this is one of the coolest poster designs of all time. And the formula Mr. Robert Hiltzik had while entering this movie was the classic formula. It's boobs, it's blood, and it's mayhem. That is the three things that combine to make a badass slasher movie, ladies and gentlemen. You want to have some good-looking women. You want to have that good-looking women running around with their shirts off. It's a good thing. It's entertaining. It's a good thing to see while you're eating popcorn. You want to see a lot of blood in a horror movie. You want to see that gore galore, baby. You know what I mean? And then you want to see the mayhem. You want to see the backcrap crazy kills. You want to see the backcrap crazy characters, moments, dialogue, all that stuff. And this movie, it's just the pinnacle of that. I love Sleepaway Camp 2. I love this movie like a child. I love this goddamn movie. Basically, the story is it's a few years later, and Angela is back, and this time played by Pamela Springsteen, who I would argue gives the greatest performance in the history of horror movies in this movie. I love her in part 3 as well. And the reason I love this character of Angela a lot more than the first one is, now she's an extrovert. Now there's a line where she says, you never used to be able to get me to speak. Now you can't get me to shut up. And I love that, because that happens to a lot of people. They'll be very shy, timid, whatever. And then after time, if they're pushed to it, they can become this crazy extroverted. Like, I would consider myself a lot of that way. Like, I remember when I was young, I wouldn't say much, And then when I got to middle school, I just peaked. I was just like, damn, I want to talk to everybody. I want to be everybody's friend. And like, I totally know where she's coming from with that. And I really like that character direction. Of course, all the characters in this movie are actually named after Breakfast Club members, Brat Pack members, I should say. Like, there's Emilio, there's Judd, there's Allie, there's Molly, there's Uncle John, who's, of course, named after John Hughes, who made all those Brat Pack movies of the 80s. Of course, The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, Weird Science, all these movies, 16 Candles. And I just have fun with that right off the bat. Like, I love that he decided to name his characters after these legendary Brat Pack members. And man, to say that this movie is fun is the understatement of the year. I just have so much damn fun with this movie. Angela's back at camp, and basically her motive this time is, if you mess with any morality, Angela is going to kill you. So you have these two sisters called the Shoat sisters, and they call them the Shit sisters in the movie, which is really, really funny. And they're really slutty. They drink, they smoke, they do drugs, all this stuff at camp. They're, as Angela says, they're fornicating with the boys, all this stuff like that. And it's just wild. And basically what she does, she makes them, they're drinking, and they basically, one of them wakes up and sees the other one is burned alive. And they're both sitting on a grill, and she's tied up. She's like, what the hell's going on? And Angela's like, you throw everything of your life away. You throw it down a toilet. It's just awful. And I'm just like, what is going on? And she starts pouring gasoline on her. And she's like, you have to learn in life. You have to say no to drugs. Drops a match on her, burns this girl alive. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, that is going the extra mile. That sets a tone for this movie that really never slows down. The body count in this movie, I've done the math. You get a kill less than every 2 minutes in this movie. That's insane. That's like, I don't know any movie has a better ratio than that. It's just incredible. I love so many of the characters in this movie. Of course, you have Renee Estevez as the lead, like prude final girl. Molly is the character's name, and she's kind of fallen in love with one of the good-looking boys at camp. His name's Sean, and he's like the cop's son, and he's the good bad boy type of thing. And they're like kind of like getting together. And then there's the camp slut played by Valerie Hartman, and her name's Allie. And oh my God, she is the hottest girl in the series. She is so good looking, and you do get to see her a lot. I mean, she is front nudity for a lot of this movie, which is very entertaining. And she also, the thing I love about Valerie Hartman is she actually helped behind the scenes a lot too. She helped with catering, she helped with makeup, she helped with all these things. She was even on the set of part 3 when she didn't even have to be. She wasn't even getting paid. So she really paid her dues and really cared about making these movies as good as they could possibly be. And I really have always appreciated Valerie Hartman for that. I wish she would do an interview. I just love her. I think she's great. She had a really what? You can't hear me? Listen. Oh, 2 listeners. Oh, okay. On Ram Nation or on YouTube? 4? What? 2 and 2? Oh, good looks. All right, good look. I love you. I love you too. How you doing? So, all right, getting back into this. Oh, I got all 4 producers to laugh. I got all 4 of them and all 4 of my listeners. Granted, these might be all 4 of my listeners right here. They might be, they might be screwing with me right now. I don't know. But yeah, getting back to this, man. I just love Valerie Hartman's performance in this. She plays a great camp slut. There's a funny ass scene in this movie where she's having sex with one of the like soccer kids because he's just like, she wants to be having sex with Sean, but she just decides, screw it. Like, I'm a whore. I'm gonna have sex with him instead. And after they're done having sex, she goes, you don't have AIDS or anything, do you? And I'm just like, every time I hear that, I'm like, what the hell? Like, who the hell asked that after the fact? Like, I recently watched my good buddy Brian, and we just both started, dying. Like, we started laughing like crazy, man. That was some really funny stuff. Really, really love that character in this movie. And then, of course, man, you just have some really fun Angela kills in this flick. You have the death scene with the drill where this one girl, Mare, she wants to go home and she says, "My name's not Mary, it's Mare." And then Angela, Pam Springsteen, she's just trying to just let this girl go. And she says, "I hate this place. Take me home." And then Angela's like, she's like, "What are you going to do? Kill me? What are you going to shoot me?" And she goes, "No, I'm going to use a drill," and just drills her stomach out. So all her organs and intestines and all that stuff. Like, it's brutal. Of course, you have panty raids in this film where these kids, the boys panty raid the girls and the girls panty raid the boys and get all their jock straps and stuff like that. There's the TC character who has the most awesome 80s mullet in the history of the movies. I mean, I just love his mullet. It's iconic. Of course, on my shirt, you have the Happy Camper song. I'm a happy camper. I love the summer sun. That is just epic, man. And why I love that scene so much, that opening where you see Pam Springsteen, and the reason I think she's so good in this role is because it seems like it means the world to her. Like, they name her Counselor of the Week and she goes on stage and she sings her song, and it means so much to her. And I feel like it's a aspect of this movie that's lost in a lot of people. They don't, but the reason she's so great is because she really sells the art of being a psychopath. She's nuts. This is the pinnacle of her life, being named Counselor of the Week. And she wants to do such a good job that she kills all the people that are immoral at the camp. If you drink, if you smoke, if you cuss, if you have sex, if you do any of those things, those are big no-nos for Angela. She's going to kill your ass. If you tattle, there's a scene where this girl, the entire movie, she keeps telling on people. And she goes, "What are you going to do to me? I didn't do anything." And Angela pulls out a knife. She goes, "You're going to tell." Stabs that bitch right in the heart, man. It's epic. I love that scene. Of course, I think the best death scene in the movie involves the Valerie Hartman character, the Allie character. She goes up to Angela's cabin, abandoned cabin, where this is where she's holding all the bodies, right? And she goes up there because Angela leaves a note and it says, Sean, this is Sean, meet me at the abandoned cabin at 3:00. So Valerie Hartman's like, I just had sex, but I'm down for round two. She walks up to the cabin and Angela's waiting there for her. And she goes, man, I didn't think you'd fall for this. You're dumber than I thought. And I love that. And Allie goes, you're more effed up than I thought. She turns around and Angela stabs her in the back and goes down again. And it, like, to the word cringeworthy is not even, it's an understatement. Like, it is, I jump every time I see that. It is horrendous. It's scary as hell. And then she kind of forces her over into an outhouse. And this is where you get, I think, arguably one of the best kills in any slasher movie. You get one of the best kills in any slasher movie as Angela pushes the Allie character into the porterhouse, the porterhouse, right? Yeah, the porterhouse steak, the porta potty. I'm sorry, I'll get it right here. I'm a little rusty. It's been a while. She goes, pushes her into the porta potty, and she puts her head down in the toilet. And she goes, "What's down there?" And I'm just like, "Oh my god!" Like, I'm watching this. I'm just like, "What the hell?" She goes, "What's down there?" She goes, "I don't know." She goes, "Say it. It's your favorite word. Shit." She goes, "That's what's down there." And I'm just like, "Oh my god! Like, what the hell?" And she's like, "What else is down there?" She's like, "Piss." And she's like, "Do you want me to borrow that word for you for a minute? Can I borrow the shit word?" She goes, "You've been a shitty person," and she's taunting her, and she's like, "You're an awful counselor. You've taken nothing away but God-given looks away, and you flushed your entire life down a toilet." And what else is down there? And she goes, "I don't know." And she goes, "Well, it looks like you're going to have to find out." And she drowns her in the porta potty of shit and leeches and piss. And it is horrendous. It is terrifying, man. Like, could you imagine? Drowning would be bad enough, but drowning in shit, drowning in pee, drowning in leeches while you're getting, and drowning after you got stabbed in the back, you're going to have all that stuff infect you. Like, that is absolutely terrifying. It's absolutely one of the scariest things you'll ever see in any horror movie. It's just one of the scariest kills. You have, of course, the two guys that dress up as Freddy and Jason that are trying to scare Angela. And of course, Angela, in badass fashion, shows up to the party as Leatherface and chainsaws one, cuts the other with the Freddy glove, cuts his throat. You just have so many great nods to horror movies in here. I mean, you have a Friday nod. You have a Nightmare on Elm Street nod. You have a Leatherface nod. Like, you have all these great nods that I just really enjoy as a horror film fan. And I love all the stereotypical characters. They're really, really fun in this movie. Of course, you have this crazy ending where Sean and Molly go up to the cabin and Angela has all the bodies there. And she ties them both up and she's like talking to them. She had all these drugs and electroshock therapy and all these things. And she's just going on and on about what's happened to her over the past 5 years. And there's one point where Sean starts screaming at her. He's like, "My dad, the day you got out, he's a cop. He's helped arrest you. You should have heard him the day you got out." And he just keeps going, won't shut his mouth. And she takes a machete and full off decapitates the guy. And it is insane. Like, you're just like, "Oh my god!" Like, it comes out of nowhere. And Molly passes out from seeing this, and when she wakes up, Angela's spoon feeding her peas, and she goes, "Oh, good time you're up. Look who's on TV." And it pans over, and it's Sean's head on the TV. It's like decapitated, and she just screams. It's just morbid black comedy, man, and it's funny as hell. Just a really good time I have with this movie. I really have no complaints. I think Pamela Springsteen as Angela Baker, the Angel of Death, as they name her in this film, which is forever what I know her as. I just think she just nails it. I think she hits it out of the park. I think Fritz Gordon as writer does such a great job at creating all these stereotypical teens and funny dialogue that I laugh, humor that's not forced in my opinion. It's just very organic humor in my opinion. I know people that think these movies stink and think the original is the almighty Mecca. You know, there's two type of cults. I think there's the cults for the original and then there's the cults for 2 and 3. I am like the ringleader of the cult for 2 and 3. Like, I love these movies. I even own a poster of part 3, one of the original one sheets, one of like 100 that they ever made. It's like a video poster. It's really cool. But yeah, that is Sleepaway Camp 2. Overall, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's number 7 actually on my top 10. It's tied with Sleepaway Camp Part 3, which I will get to right now. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. I love this movie. I think it's one of the most underrated great sequels in the history of horror movies. Unhappy Campers. I mean, you have the perfect formula. You got the boobs, the blood, and the mayhem, and you've got Pam Springsteen throwing out one-liners like Freddy Krueger. I mean, that would put Freddy Krueger to shame. That's how great Pam Springsteen is in these roles. And Pam Springsteen, if you're listening, if you're one of the 4 people listening, Pam, please, if you want to make a smart financial decision, please do a convention. I will pay you whatever the hell you want for an autograph. I am not even kidding. I love Pam Springsteen that much. But yeah, she's the angel of death. She is the badass Pamela Springsteen. Gotta love her. That's Sleepaway Camp 2. 10 out of 10 for me. And I do know there are actually quite a few people that love this movie too that I've shown. I've shown it to my friends over the years, and we can literally quote the lines verbatim, over Bantam and stuff like that. I know Chris Jericho. This is actually Chris Jericho's favorite horror movie in the history of the world, which I always thought was really cool because he's one of my favorite wrestlers. So that was cool. Me and my favorite wrestler share a love for Sleepaway Camp 2. It's pretty badass. But that brings us to 1 year later. They actually shot these movies back to back. Did Mr. Michael A. Simpson and Fritz Gordon. They shot these movies back to back in like 6 weeks. So they made these movies 3 weeks apiece. That's incredible considering how good they are and how short they are. They're both like an hour and 20 minutes each. And for a slasher movie, that's what you want. You want short and sweet. You want short, sweet, and then, of course, the formula, boobs, blood, and mayhem. And I think if there's any movie that can up the ante, that can say, hey, you know what? We're going to have more boobs, blood, and mayhem. It is the sequel to Sleepaway Camp 2, and that is Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland. I flipping love this movie. This is probably my favorite of the series. And a lot of people would be like, huh? Like that one's your favorite? But man, to say that this movie is even more fun, even more cheesy, and even more campy than Part 2, again, would be an understatement. Like, I just have a blast with this movie. It's basically, it's the next year, and they're moving on from Camp Rolling Hills. Now it's Camp New Horizons. And basically what they do is they take all these kids from different parts of the country and they put them together to try to refix the camp and set everything up. So you have Lily and Herman. So they are the camp runners. One of them is Michael J. Pollard, who actually is an Academy Award nominated person who you have in a Sleepaway Camp film. I love that. Which is obviously all the characters in this are named after the Munsters and the Brady Bunch. Like you have a Jan, you have a Marcia, you have, of course, and then Lily and Herman are the people that run the camp, the Munsters, if you will, which I think is really, really clever, really, really funny. I love Fritz Gordon for that. I think he's great. I wish he wrote more stuff. You have a hilarious opening scene where this girl from New York, Maria Nicastro, she is walking towards the bus to go to Sleepaway Camp. And Angela, in broad daylight in New York City, is driving an 18-wheeler Mack truck and starts driving to try to hit this girl on the sidewalk in New York City, which it's clearly not New York City. It's clearly Georgia. It's really bad. And she's driving and she basically chases her into a back alley and runs her ass over. It is incredible. I'm just like, oh my God. And it looks really good, I would say. So Angela runs her over, switches clothes, gets hops on the bus to Sleepaway Camp and takes her place. This way she can go back to camp and start doing the thing she does best. And that is killing dumbass, immoral teenagers one by one and spitting out those one-liners. That's what this movie is. And of course, you have the excellent opening song, Obsession, Methods of Madness by Obsession, sung by Ronnie James Dio, who's just an absolute 80s legend for heavy metal music. And I just love that opening. One of the most badass guitar intros ever. I mean, it's incredible guitar intro. And then Angela goes to the camp and we are introduced to even more colorful characters that are so unpolitically correct that I literally can't say half of the stuff in this movie on here. That's how un-PC this movie is. You have I can't even say it. I don't want to say it because it's wrong. But you have a lot of minorities and a lot of them, they play to the stereotypes of that time. And it's very, very entertaining. I love them. You have Rev from Detroit. You have Arab, who's this Chinese girl. And you basically have the people from the small towns, they're all goody two shoes. And then you have the people from like bad areas of the country, and they're all just like scoundrels and fiends and stuff. And they're separated into three groups. Angela's with one group, and then the other two groups, and they kind of split up. And it's basically just a body count movie from there. Like she's just picking them off one by one in all these sorts of creative ways. There's one scene where Angela, she this movie, it's just a riot. The Herman character is again getting some young women to fall in love with him. She is gorgeous woman, by the way, and they're about to have sex in the tent. And Angela's like, hell no, you are not having sex on my watch. She brings a stick, and she's like, come on out here, Herman. I see you. I see what you're doing there. He's like, oh, please, my old woman doesn't give me no more. And she beats him to death with a stick. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, this is crazy. Then same thing with a girl. She gets her down, stick right through the mouth. And she's pulling her away. And this classic one-liner, good thing I killed you because your breast would have been sagging something horrible. Like, it's just like, what? Like, it's funny as hell, man. Like, you have a blast with her one-liners in this. There's one point where the two campers, they're in the, they keep pissing her off. Like, they won't do anything. And she basically... they're both sleeping, and she puts firecrackers in one of the guys' nose. And so it's like you see it slowly diffuse and pop, and the guy's whole face just explodes. And then Snowboy wakes up, and he's like, ah, and he screams, and she clocks him in the head with a piece of wood, and then puts them both in the tent and sets the tent on fire. And in any slasher movie, that's where it would end. It would just set her on fire, right? She grabs a stick, the same stick that she killed them with, and she puts 2 marshmallows on it and starts roasting the marshmallows over the roasting bodies of her victims. Like, that is so awesome. I'm a mark for Pam Springsteen in these movies, if you can't tell. And she has just, a million one-liners in this too. She's chopping wood, and Michael J. Pollard goes, hey, where'd you learn to chop wood like that? She goes, I've never chopped wood before, but I've chopped other things. And I just love that. Like, it's a riot, man. It is really goddamn funny. They come back, and they're talking, what's your favorite color? And she goes, that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to go with blood red. Like, I love that. They're fishing at one point, and she says, what's today's date? And somebody goes Saturday, the 14th. So it's a little nod to Friday the 13th there. They actually find the hockey mask from the previous film in the water. Just some really clever writing with this one. Of course, there's the trust game scene where this girl is just this snobby, rich bitch. Like, she's just awful. And they're playing this trust game where you're blindfolded and hands tying behind your back. And Angela's walking with her, and she goes, let me ask you some questions. And she goes, sure. She goes, are you a cheerleader? And she goes, yeah. She goes, are you a smoker? And she goes, isn't everybody? And she goes, are you a virgin? And she goes, please, I haven't been a virgin in 3 years. And she goes, that's strike 3. And you're just like, what? And then she ties the girl up. Like, she's already tied up, and she ties her to a flagpole. Starts pulling her up the flagpole, goes all the way to the top because Angela's got those gains, right? She pulls her all the way up and just lets go. And this girl falls, I'm telling you, head first, and they do not cut the scene, smacks the ground, and you just see brain matter everywhere. It is one of the craziest kills. Yeah, I know. One of my producers going, oh my God. It is insane, man. It is one of, I can show y'all. I got the DVD right here. We can even watch it before we go. It's a 2-minute scene. Bunch of crazy people. Apparently, that scene was the reason too, because the one flaw with this movie, the theatrical cut of this movie, is the MPAA cut it to shreds. This was a time period where the MPAA just decided to cut every movie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 was a huge victim of the MPAA at this time. Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland, of course, had to be a victim of that at the time. But the coolest thing about this Blu-ray is on the back, you'll see that they have an uncut version of the movie. It's like a VHS transfer. It's like a bad VHS transfer, but it is the movie uncut. There are spots where the music does not play, which is a shame. However, I think it's very, very good that you have those kills put back in there. Of course, anybody and everybody would kill for the uncut version of Friday 13th Part 7. We'd love to see that cutting room footage, put back into a movie that we could watch from beginning to end. And unfortunately, that's never happened. And I don't think it ever will happen. I know the director is no longer with us, Mr. John Carl Buechler. May he rest in peace. And I'm pretty sure that they said in Paramount that they don't have any of that footage. They threw it out. And the few bits of footage they have is so rough, like you don't even have sound, period. But these, you do have the sound. It's not, you just don't have music in some spots, which in a movie that doesn't have that much music in an hour and 20-minute film, it really doesn't matter that much, exception of the badass guitar intro. They do take that out. But if you can live without that and get the movie uncut with uncut kills, especially this movie, because this movie has great kills, I just think it's really worth it. And you see, of course, in the uncut version, you'll see the brain matter. You see the body hit the ground. It is one of the craziest kills in the history of movies. I mean, I every time jump for that. Even my friend Connor, shout out to you, buddy. We actually, me and him might be going to see Friday the 13th Part 5 and 8 on the big screen tomorrow, 30th anniversary of Jason Takes Manhattan over at the Cinema Arts Center. He even sold it. Like, I remember watching this with him and his eyes just bulged and his jaw dropped. He even sold it. He doesn't sell nothing. And he was even like, oh my God, like that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. And I was just like, dude, like, if this can get Connor to sell with his eyes, like that's just incredible. I thought that was awesome. Of course, you have so many really, really fun kills in this, they're really literally too many to mention at times. I love the kill where there's one guy and he's my name is Bobby Stark and I want to be a politician. And he's the entire movie trying to be like, make everybody friends with everybody. And he's just this uber like nerdy, like, oh, like he's one of those guys you love to hate. And he goes, oh man, at one point they tie him up with Angela, another trust game. And he goes, man, I don't know if you're into this, but I mean, I kind of like being tied up with you. And you're just like, what? Like, what the hell? Like, it's very uncomfortable. And she like, get off me. And he's like, yo, can we do something later? And she's like, you know what? Yeah, we can. And so she ties his arms behind a tree. And she ties his arms up and attaches the rope that she has to his arms to her car. And he's like, you gonna go down on me? And she's like, something like that. And she hops in the car and drives away. And his arms just both get ripped off at the same time. Massive amounts of blood on the unrated version. It's like Evil Dead 2 amount of blood. Very entertaining. And then, of course, she pulls the car over and she goes, that's one less dumb politician we'll have to worry about for the future. I just like, like Angela always gets my ass to pop no matter how many times I watch this one. Just the one-liners are iconic. Of course, you have Lily, the Lily death scene, who she's this uptight, like lazy, fat woman who runs the camp, and she wants Angela to do everything because she's fat and lazy. And she basically at one point says to Angela, I don't want to play any trust games with you. I just want to sit here and I want to work on my vacation, my tan for the vacation me and Herman are going to take. And Angela is like, oh, please, I want to play one trust game with you. She's like, all right, I'll play one. So she blindfolds her and pushes her into a ditch. And she's a fat lady. Like she's done. Like once you push a fat person into a ditch, they're done. She buries her alive and only her head is sticking out. And she's like, please let me live. We'll take you with us on vacation. Anything to just plead with Angela, anything a phony person would do. And next thing you know, Angela pulls out a lawnmower and is going towards this woman. All that's above ground is this lady's head. And she's humming and she's moving the lawnmower towards her. And it's crazy, man. She runs over her head with a lawnmower for the kill. It is epic. I absolutely love that kill. It's iconic. I think it's one of the best kills of the series. That one is heavily cut by the MPAA. Even on the uncut version, you really don't see much of what happens. But it's just the idea of that. Like if Peter Jackson had directed this and like had gotten away with the MPA of showing that, it would have been one of the most goriest, awesomest kills ever. But to me, it's just the idea that is terrifying. Like imagine having your head being buried from neck down and then having your head run over by a goddamn lawnmower. That is insane. You do have a really good love story in this one, actually. I would say these two had better chemistry than the two in the first one. Tracy Griffith is the lead girl character, the final girl character in this. And the other I forget the other actor's name. The character's name is Tony. And like they're from different parts of the country, but they kind of follow this bond together. They have a nice little romance, and I think that it actually takes away, like, it's, in between all the crazy and killing this, which is most of the film. You do get parts of this where you do have that as kind of just like a relief moment. Like, okay, she just killed 8 people. Now we're gonna get to see this death scene a little bit. I mean, this love, these two trying to fall in love and stuff like that. And you basically move down to the end of this one. It comes down to those two. And Angela's like, listen, I've killed everybody else. You two seem perfect for each other. I found the other two boring anyway. I love that. And she goes, I think one day I'll find somebody, and there are plenty of fish in the sea. Bye. And I just love that. I saw this on the big screen. And the people, like, when she delivers that line, like, I'm gonna let y'all live. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Bye. Everybody just like laughs, like nervously laughs, because it's so weird. Like, it's so funny and disturbing at the same time. Like, it's really, really well done. I just love her character. And there is a scene in this too that I really like, where Angela revisits the kitchen. She's like disposing of the bodies and whatnot. And she walks back into Camp Rolling Hills. And there's a moment where she kind of slows down and looks, and they play like in slow motion the Happy Camper song from the previous film. And it's almost like for a minute, you see that she's still not over it. It's been a whole year and she still wishes she could be Angela Baker, counselor of the week. And like, I love that about this character. She really, she's not out to be purposely bad. It's just the immorality of all these dumbass kids that forces her to do it. She's like, oh, like, you can see she's annoyed. She's like, can you just shut up and not be, out loud with your awfulness and stuff like that. And because so many people at this time, especially, were just dialed up to 11 with, I want to drink. There's even a line where Snowboy in this movie goes, party all night, teenage wasteland. And he's graffitiing, and like, she's just like, God damn, like, I've got to just keep weeding out the bad kids, which is the line from the second one. There's plenty of good kids in the world. I just got to weed out the bad. And she does that in this movie. Of course, you get a crazy, crazy finale again. Tracy Griffith actually takes Angela down and stabs her a few times in the stomach. And I always thought that was really cool. And she, oh, what's up? I got 9 minutes. Okay, thank you. Yeah. She takes her down, stabs her a few times, and the paramedics take Angela away. And she's in the back of the ambulance, and these 2 paramedics are like, we should just kill her. She's killed hundreds. We can kill her right here. No one will know. And they're just talking about it, and they're talking about it, and they don't know what to do. And Angela just kind of wakes up and just stabs one with a needle in the eye, kills the other. And they hear screaming, and the ambulance driver hears screaming, and he goes, what's going on back there? And she goes, just the classic, as cool as a cucumber, just taking care of business. And then we end. And that, unfortunately, was the end of the Pamela Springsteen era. I doubt we'll ever get another reprisal of the role from Pam Springsteen. But I will say that this is my favorite of the 3 of the franchise. I don't even count the next 2. I hate these movies. The next 2 movies, so bad. But I think it should have ended here. If you're gonna end it, or if you were gonna do a Sleepaway Camp Gone Berserk and bring her back, the time to do it was a while ago. Who knows? Maybe one day, but I would just be fine if she showed up on a documentary and discussed her role in these movies, because she is the reason I keep coming back to these movies. She is the reason that I think these movies will always stand the test of time to me, because it's her performance. I think it is easily the most underrated performance in any horror film, because you never hear her mentioned. And I would dare to say the Angel of Death, Pamela Springsteen, Angela Baker, she is my favorite slasher in any slasher or any horror movie. My favorite villain. Yes, better than Anthony Perkins in goddamn Psycho. Yes, better than Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. Yes, better than Freddy, Jason, and Michael, because I guess I just always loved the character's ability to do the things that she was doing while winking at the camera. And I just enjoyed the hell out of that, man. I really, really love Pamela Springsteen, and she's just a legend, and I will always remember her for these 2 movies. So that is Sleepaway Camp 3. Again, if I had to rate it, I'm going to go with the old 10 out of 10, perfect score. I am pressed for time. I don't have much time left. So yeah, I have 6 minutes and I've got like 2 more movies, but one of them is a stock footage movie. The fourth Sleepaway Camp is called Sleepaway Camp 4: The Survivor. I will warn you, don't spend your $19.99 on that. You know how many Big Macs you can get with $19.99? You can get like 4 Big Macs $19.99. You can get like mad good things for $19.99. Don't spend it on Sleepaway Camp 4: The Survivor. Basically, they tried to make a Sleepaway Camp 4 in 1992 with Carolyn Chambers to play Angela. They never even filmed much dialogue scenes. It's literally like 20 minutes of footage they shot. Half of it has no sound. And then the rest of Sleepaway Camp 4: The Survivor are stock footage from the first 3 movies played over and over to try to fill the time. And I forget the director's name or the writer's name or whatever, but they're disgusting human beings for tricking the Sleepaway Camp fans into buying that movie and giving them 20 minutes of original content and half of it did not have sound. It's disgusting. It is actually worse than Sleepaway Camp 4 or Return to Sleepaway Camp technically, because it's just such a middle finger to any of the fans of the first 3. And I really don't like Sleepaway Camp 4: The Survivor. Do not spend your money on it. Avoid it like the plague. It's a horrendous film. And the last one of the series, thank you. The last one of the series is Return to Sleepaway Camp. I have about 5 minutes here. I've discussed this one on the show before. I hate it. In my worst sequel show, if you want to see the full out review of it, you can. It's basically is a horrendous movie. The original director, Robert Hiltzik, came back and decided, I hate part 2 and 3 because I'm a loser, right? So he retcons those movies and picks up straight after part 1. And the entire movie involves this fat kid named Alan, and he basically is an ass, and he's being picked on like Angela from the original film. And the difference with this movie is from the first one is there's no sympathy to be felt for the Alan character. He's an ass. He makes fun of people. He roasts people. He's one of those kids. He's trying to fit in, but he's such an obnoxious piece of garbage that you just can't sympathize with him. And one by one, people are being killed off. Horrendous. I mean, horrendous CGI in this movie. It's just terrible. There's a scene where this guy blows up after she pours gasoline down his throat and makes him smoke a cigarette and he turns in fire. It's awful, awful effect. I'd rather you not show it than show what they showed because it was just looked really poor. There's just awful characters. The lead blonde girl in this could not act to save her goddamn life. It's painful. Like they totally just hired her. They were like, you're pretty, like, you want to be in this movie? We'll give you at least lines as possible. Because she couldn't do anything. There's awful. Vincent Pastore shows up in this goddamn movie. Yeah, big pussy from The Sopranos shows up in this movie, and they put a cage on his head and fill it with rats, and they cut the scene. Isaac Hayes shows up in this movie in the same attire his character wears on South Park. May he rest in peace. Poor Isaac Hayes had to be in this goddamn movie. I think this is the last movie Isaac Hayes was ever in. That's a disgrace. I do know this movie had incredible problems. They started filming this in 2003. It was not released until 2008. This movie was on the shelf for 5 goddamn years. That's how horrendously awful this is. Again, you have a really bad twist ending in this where Felicia Rose, it's bad, man. Felicia Rose, she's top billing in the movie. So you're like, okay, she's going to be in it. Where is she in it? And you basically learn at the end that she was a cop undercover pretending to be like a cancer, like one of those people with the microphones to their throats. I don't know the correct term for it, but she's one of those people. And at the end, she undresses and she's like, it's me, Angela. Hi, And I'm just like, are you goddamn kidding me? Like, it is one of the worst endings. It is one of the worst endings in the history of movies. I hate it so bad. Return to Sleepaway Camp is the bottom of the barrel. As a movie, like if you discount 4 because it is a stock footage film, as a movie, Return to Sleepaway Camp is the worst of the series, but the Survivor is really bad too. Don't watch Return to Sleepaway Camp. Stick with the original trilogy. It's an excellent trilogy. I would argue there are a few trilogies in horror that are better than the Sleepaway Camp trilogy because each movie works just for different reasons. And I just love it. So yeah, I'm wrapping up here. There's less than 2 minutes to go here. Those are the Sleepaway Camp films. Return to Sleepaway Camp, I give it a 1 out of 10. I hate that movie with a burning passion. I will never watch it again. I regret to this day the $3.99 I spent to watch it because I could have gotten like 2 McDoubles with that. So it bothers me. But yeah, man, I gotta say, it's been fun coming back to Ram Nation. I don't have a sticker on my car, so I'm really praying right now that I didn't get a ticket while I was in here. If I do, it's on my producers. Just kidding. But yeah, man, I've just enjoyed. I know I've just really enjoyed this coming back here to the old stomping grounds now that I'm alumni, and I'm gonna try to do this every week. We're gonna see because I'm working. I'm working right now, so we got to see my schedule and stuff like that. If I can't come back, I can do it from home. That's the beauty of YouTube. And I just want to thank everybody. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. The Cemetery Man is back and better than ever, baby. I will be here next week. Don't know what the topic's gonna be yet, but I love you guys. Too sweet. Peace out. We'll see you next time on the Graveyard.